And welcome, everyone. You guys are tuning in to the Rowdy Roster. I am your host, Nina Soul, and you are joining us today for Season 1, Episode 5. Today, we are going to be discussing trauma responses and toxic relationships. Joining me on today's panel, we have our panel members, Stephanie Gold. She is a paranormal investigator. She is also a practitioner of Ifa and Espiritismo. Also, we have Nubs here on the panel. You guys met Nubs last week. Nubs is a peer specialist and he does a lot of work in the community. He was the one that created the website that we showcased last week, the peersforyou.com, I believe is how it's worded, Nubs. Right? I got that right?
PeersToYou.com. Yep.
Peers2you.com. Okay, and then I do have that. I have all that information in last week's podcast. And joining us today is our very special guest. We have a new panel member today. This is Joya Cleveland. She is a trained social worker who has dedicated the past 20 years to serving marginalized and vulnerable populations and bridging gaps so all can access the resources they need to actualize success. Throughout her career, Joya has demonstrated her passion for serving communities as a case manager, community outreach coordinator, program manager, executive director, and court advocate for domestic violence and sexual assault survivors. She prides herself on her ability to build consensus across cross-function teams and maintain open lines of communication for all. So welcome, Joya. Thank you so much for joining us here on the roster today. I think everybody's muted. You guys are all muted. You guys can unmute. There we go.
Thank you for having me again.
Yes, welcome. I'm picking up a little bit of feedback. I don't know if it's on you, Nubs. A little bit of echo. There we go. It went away. Okay. All right. Okay. And then Steph, you still here, right? I don't know if you got frozen.
No, I'm here.
You here? Okay. Okay. Sounds good. I don't know if your camera. Oh, there we go. We're back. Okay. All right. Awesome. So welcome, Joya. Thank you for
Thank
being
you
on
for
today's
having me.
show. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, um, like you said, I work a lot with the community. I felt it was like a passion and calling. You know how like some people when they go into different fields, they decide what career they're gonna do. I feel like this career really chose me. I was looking to get into just helping people. And like in 2005, I applied to domestic violence agency locally just to be the receptionist. And when I got into the interview, they asked me if I was interested in the direct service part and working with the survivor. So literally, I feel like the field and working with people who were hurting and in need chose me. And so it's always an honor to share any supports, resources, and information I can with people.
I love that. I love that. So what have you like what in your in the work that you've done um what have you found like the most challenging in this type of in the work that it is that you do? Is it like the emotional, like where do you kind of separate like Joya from the work that Joya does?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of people will look at like the battle scars and the things that they've been through in life as a hindrance to the work that they do when they're in helping professions. I feel like the trauma and things that I've been through in my life, I've had somewhat of a tumultuous past. It has really prepared me so that when I am with people who are hurting or going through trauma, that I can really relate and understand. And I think because I have so much inside of me, like have overcome, that when I hear things and experience it with the clients, I am not like too much affected, like devastated, and I need a moment. Sometimes that happens, but for the most part, I'm just like, okay, I think I have an inner strength that I usually can lend to them when providing, support. So when you look back in your life, you can say, oh my gosh, all of that has almost prepared me for the work of helping others.
Yes. Wow. And you know, I feel like I just said that to somebody today because it's crazy. Like I read, like, you know, those memes and stuff. I read one that said you survived 100% of everything that you've been through. And
Hmm.
it's like I feel like sometimes we forget that. Like I was like, oh shit, like that was a very real. You know what I'm saying? And I had said it. I said it just like the other day. I reminded somebody like, don't forget we've survived 100% of everything we've been through.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely. Yes.
So
100% agreed.
yes. So I love that, and you know, and I'm so glad that you're gonna be a part of today's show because with the topic of today, we're discussing trauma responses. We're also discussing toxic relationships, and I love that you have, you know, you have the experience in your work to be able to kind of like help people to navigate through some of those things because it's so important. I love for the shows to kind of like give people like you know, just like I guess you would say like that sense of self, and
Hmm.
then you know how to navigate through that. Like you're not the only one who feels these things, you're not the only one who's gone through these things. And you know, for those of us who have found healthy ways to help us to, you know, to heal, I feel like sharing those things and like almost like leaving like a map for other people to be able to find that healing within themselves, or at least inspire their journey of finding that healing, because I feel like healing looks different for everybody.
Absolutely. You hit it. Yep. It really is. And I think a lot of times when people are going through traumatic things, one of the worst feelings is that feeling of isolation. And one of the things that I hear a lot is no one understands. To feel like you've been through something that no one else has or no one else can feel you, it almost binds you to your trauma where you can't get released to get the help and healing that you need. And so just people out there saying, me too, I've been through it, I understand, let me help you, let me in to help you, that makes a world of a difference.
Yes, it really does. So, panel. Let me start with I'm gonna start with Nubs. Nubs, do you feel like you've gone through anything like this? What are we in? Let's see, we're in Wednesday. Like this last week, have you gone through anything that has triggered like a trauma response?
From me?
Yeah. Like,
Um,
and it could be for you yourself or even just somebody that you may have like had like an interaction with. I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of like static on
okay.
your side.
Is it any better?
Are you guys getting that too? Or is that just me?
Are you? Okay, try this once.
I don't know if, let's see. Nubs has stopped recording. Okay. How's, what's that like? Okay, he might have to come back. All right, how about in the meantime, let's take this question. Wait, hold on, he's back. He's back. Ooh, Steph, you dodged that one, girl.
Okay. Sorry.
It's okay now. See, I'm still
Um,
getting it. Are you guys hearing that at all, or is that just on my end?
okay, then I'm having some sort of technical difficulties.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, I got some new headphones on the way. I was hoping they were going to be here this morning, but they're not here yet. Um, as far as your question, though, can you guys hear me okay, anyways?
Let's see. Hold on. People are
Yeah,
saying
we
that.
can. I can hear you well. It's just when she speaks.
Okay,
Okay.
here, let me try this once.
Let's see. Chat. Can any of you guys tell us? Are you hearing like Are you hearing me double? You're hearing double. Okay. Yeah.
How do I fix that
That's an audio.
in audio?
Yeah.
It won't let me.
Let's see. Let me see if I can do anything on my end. What's your audio? Hmm. No, cancellation. Are you able to see that on your end though?
I can, but I can't do anything about it.
Yeah, it's not letting. It might be because we're live.
Yeah, I think it's because we're live. You want me to just jump out? I don't
Okay,
want to
okay.
ruin
Man,
your
no,
guys' thing.
you dodged all my questions.
All right, I'll get to him. I'll get to him next time. I promise.
Sounds good.
You guys, you guys have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Nams, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye bye.
All right, bye. Oh man, you know who that leads this one to?
No, I was gonna say because I actually was thinking about it when you were speaking that I heard somebody say once that relationships can be classified in like three different terms: healthy, unhealthy, or abusive. And they said there's no way to make an abusive relationship healthy. You can work towards making an unhealthy relationship healthy. But once it passes to abuse and toxicity, the same things that you would do in just an unhealthy relationship to strengthen it won't work. So I was curious, Joya, also to hear your thoughts on that, if that's true or
Who was that for Joya?
anybody. But yeah, I asked because I know you've worked with domestic violence. So I've known Joya for how long? Since
A long
2001.
time. Yeah, a
Yeah.
long time. Yeah.
Nice.
Um, how would I frame that? I would say if you have an unhealthy relationship, it's almost just like salvaging the good pieces, depending on like the components in that relationship. I think if there's ever physical abuse, we believe that there's healing for everyone, right? There's things you can do to help. But if there's physical abuse, I think there has to be a commitment to not harm that person physically. Um, I think whenever you talk about a reconciliation of a relationship or any kind of redemptive qualities in a person, even an abuser, you really have to consider forgiveness and moving on past those hurts. However, if there's any physical or sexual abuse going on, those kind of traumas that I have experienced with people, incredibly hard to get over because those dysfunctions usually even go beyond just putting hands on someone. There's usually something internal deep within someone that does those type of abuses that they almost can't control themselves. It is
Mm-hmm.
possible. It is very possible. I've seen many relationships move past those points and become healthy relationships, but there has to be a commitment, a serious commitment, and owning what is wrong and really seeking that help. And it's almost like if you would have, like with alcoholics, and how they have to say, This is who I am, and like, I'll need this help and support. That's what I would see with abusers. People who do the physical abuse or sexual abuse, they have to own it and they have to commit to getting the resources to not do that and recommit.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible, but it can be very damaging to the person who suffered the abuses, to recover, to release that pain, and really not visit those past hurts because there's that past trauma that's easy to revisit in that fear of don't do it again or are you going to do it
Right.
again. So it's difficult but possible.
Yeah, most definitely.
See, and I feel like, and I agree with what Joy is saying, but I also feel like there needs to be, and some people might not agree with me on this, and that's why we're on the roster. That's why it's the rowdy roster. But I feel like there also should be a consequence to the abuse. Like the abuser should have a consequence. Like they should be willing to accept that. Not only say like, yeah, I need help, but also too, I accept whatever consequence comes with my action because I am owning the fact that I was wrong. And
So
if
you mean
and
accountability?
accountability, but the consequence also too, because there's sometimes like when you hit somebody and you send somebody to the hospital and they're over there trying to cover up for you. No, be about that shit and be like, you know what? No, I'm the reason why they're here. Lock my ass up because I need help. You know what I'm saying? Like they should, if they went ahead and did that action, then they should be able to. That's a consequence to me. You're now you have a consequence because of your action. you have to pay that, whether it be a fine, whether it be time, whether it be now there's a restraining order and you got to go get help before you can come back into this person's life. I feel like there should be, like, they, exactly, they should be held accountable, and the person should be willing to accept whatever consequences came because of their actions.
What about if it's not physical, like to the point of violence? What if somebody, it's like, because I know that in with relationship, domestic type of situation like that, it falls into different categories, but it's around power and control. So it might be, financial control or isolation that the person is doing. So in a perfect world, yes, people would have to take accountability and everything. But unfortunately, we live in an imperfect world. But I know, like, one time I took a 40-hour domestic violence training, and I had to sit in on a group that was for the men who had been violent. So there was the women's group who that they had been survivors, right? And then there was the group for the perpetrators, or I'm sorry if I'm using the wrong language, correct me, but
No, no, no,
for
no.
the
You don't have to. That's fine.
but for sure, the men in the group, and it was just very interesting because they went around and shared why they were there as a group, and every one of them kind of minimized their role, like they were like, oh, my girl felt, she was being rude and I tried to restrain her, or she was trying to leave and I grabbed her. But it was always a sense of them downplaying the role that was that they played in the situation, and kind of almost, I don't know if I felt at the time that it was distasteful because it seemed that they were kind of like, she tried to fight back, or like almost making light of it in a lot of ways. So I found that really intriguing that they did not really see the magnitude of grief that their partners were going through, or the way that they upset their partner and their family's lives through their actions. And just wondering, is that even possible for somebody in that mindset, or somebody who is narcissistic or comes with their own trauma? So that's another question too. Maybe Joy, if you want to weigh in, like, is it possible for people to fix that? Like you said, you've seen it, but what's your take on that? Maybe I would like to hear your thoughts about how the perpetrators of abuse, how they see it much differently, and usually they only seek help when it's like court mandated. And
Yeah, typically, I think the brain is really powerful mechanism that we have, the brain. I think one of the purposes of our brain is to make sense of everything. It's a computer, you know what I mean? And so I think whenever a wrong has happened, the brain almost tries to rationalize and justify why it happens. Your brain works so hard to give you the why. So even when someone does wrong, the brain is trying to figure out this is why it happened. When the brain almost has to be retrained, that's when we're talking about those classes they would have to go to, so that they can almost look and see, this is the wrong that was done, this is how you're wrong. There is no excuse that you can come up with that is going to justify why you hurt another person. There's going to be some therapeutic activities that have to occur, whatever modalities the therapist wants to use or whoever's helping wants to use. There's going to have to be a retraining of the brain to show the fault, the flaw, and how to an action or behavior that must change in response to whatever stimulated them to do whatever they did. You have to retrain the brain and like almost put in a new activity, a new way of looking at what occurred. You have to do that in order to get the change that you're looking for, because just put an excuse in there is not going to change. And I also think, to go back to Nina's point, we've seen people who have gone to jail or who have gotten a restraining order or protective order put against them. If there's no retraining of that brain to put in something else to replace what they did and how to think differently and behave differently, even with some of the things our society puts in place in order to try to correct those behaviors, don't get me started with our system, the correctional system, the rehabilitation system. Where is the change coming? What outcome is being sought after in order to get the change that we need? Putting someone away for X amount of time does not retrain a brain. I'm sorry, it does not. It usually frustrates them further. They're missing time with their families. A lot of times, I would say they would come back, and if there is no support given to them, no resources, all it is time and space that you've given. That's it. So there has to be some kind of support and resources given to have that different response. What you're looking for is a different response, and you're looking for a different outcome. They need to think different to behave different. That's going to come first.
Hmm. And
Right.
I feel like too, a lot of people who become victims of domestic abuse may have grown up in a home where there was already, like they might have had parents that, that use put their I don't know how to explain, like whoop their kids' ass. Like you might have been getting your ass whooped from as a child, and now you're in this relationship, and now you seem to think that love equals this, and this is just how, but I feel like too, for like the victims, it's like we have to understand our own psychology as to why um sometimes why victims continue to go back. I've seen people lose everything, their children, their everything, and they'll still go back.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I think society has a lot to do with that. I think in our culture, we have almost taught that like the absolute love and that hardcore love that we see many young women want to go after and have is when someone is desperate for them, really
Hmm.
vies for their attention, their affection, um, really passion. We've equated that with passion. So we, as a society, really have to teach our young people and teach each other, because there's grown women who have that same issue too, what love looks like. I don't think we have really provided a good outlook on what true love looks like. Our love is self-sacrificing. Love is gentle. Love is kind. I'm gonna get on my biblical part, what love is, what God is, and how you respond to that. Because a lot of times it is a vicious love. It is a selfish love. It's a harmful love. It's a toxic love. It's a toxic love. It's a I'm the only one. You only want to be with, like, oh my, it has so many toxic layers, and a lot of people equate that with love. And so when you're getting those responses from someone you feel they really, really love you, when um, that's really not good behavior coming. That's not something
Right.
you should be looking for. So I think it's a societal issue as well.
What do you feel is the role that like ethnic background and race has to do with like
Hmm.
impeding resources or culture or background of how people should behave, or white supremacy and how things are punished, and how does all that play into like our view of relationships in the United States? What do y'all think? And like, does that impede people to get the help that they need? Like for example, I know when I used to work in Little India on Devon in Chicago, they had special like they had to train the people a certain way because people would come in and present with those issues, but their culture is different. The way that they deal with the family, or here, everything like from our psychology to our medicine was all pretty much, white men that have written all this that we're following. So how does that play a role, or how does that affect your work like in the community or with different demographics?
I think anytime, I think socioeconomic levels is a big indicator. And when you see toxic love, and why I say that is because anytime you have limited resources, usually in lower socioeconomic status people, they have limited resources. And so you have a mentality of this is all I have and I'm going to protect it. dangerous, dangerous, dangerous,
Wow.
dangerous, is because they have a protective mentality and a savage mentality, as if someone loves me, this is all the love I'm gonna have, because you're so used to not having an abundance of resources. So it's love may not come after this. Another relationship may not come. So that's almost your mindset when you're entering relationships. It doesn't just have to do with food. It doesn't just have to do with money. A lot of times it will be limited resource mentality that I have to keep this. So even though they're not good to me, they don't make me feel good about myself. I don't think this is a good relationship. This may be the only man I'm gonna have. This may be the only woman I'm gonna have. I have to protect this. And it's just like, but it's not good. Throw it away. Not saying that people in wealthier societies and higher socioeconomic statuses don't have relationship issues, toxic issues, abuse issues. That's not what I'm saying. There was one thing that a worker with me when I worked back in domestic violence, what he told me that I did not like when he said it. He said, poor people get protective orders, rich people get attorneys. I was like, oh,
Damn.
I don't think
Oh,
I like what you just said.
Damn.
oh,
I know, like, oh.
I didn't like what he said, but what he was saying is we're going to get the resources that are available to us, most of the time free, most of the time abundant, something not abundant, but like, easy to grab or whatever. But rich people, they'll know their rights most of the
Mm-hmm.
time, and they'll not have a resource but like, I got to get out of this marriage, I got to get out of this relationship, or someone put their hands on me, we about to sue, or we about to get kicked out the house or whatever. And I was just like, oh my gosh, it's that mentality approach. Not saying that wealthier people and people at higher economics can't get protective orders. That's not what I'm saying. It's your mentality when you approach a situation. And I was
Yeah.
just like, I can't stand that. But is it true?
I mean, you saw our reaction. Like,
yeah,
we're
that's
like, oh, you saw our reaction. I mean, I think it's one of those things that's like we hate to look at it that way. And yeah, like it took somebody to kind of like say it in a way, but I mean, yeah, it kind of. I mean, it seems that way. I know that there would have been people I would have gotten some lawyers for at some points in my life if I would have had it like that. But, like you said, it depends on where you're at. Especially if you shared, in toxic relationships, if you're sharing property, if you're sharing finances, if you're sharing all those things, and now, you got to try to figure it out on your own, that might not be your go-to when it comes to the money you got left. You're thinking about how you're going to start over, like how you're going to physically get out of there, not
That's
you know
another thing too. Yeah, because people are like,
mhm
"Oh, just leave." But what if you don't have it like that? Like, not everybody. Oh yeah, let me just go in that one savings account with 100,000 real quick and like buy a
go get me
ticket.
an
And like,
apartment and
yeah,
like.
like it's supposed to be easy, and they don't think about maybe how how do you call intertwined that their
But
life
here's
is with
here's
that
the thing
person.
though, sis. Here's the thing though, is that strategy? Because wouldn't your partner want you to be set up no matter what if something was to happen to them? Why is it that it takes why is it that it would take that? Cuz okay, so for example, if you're in a relationship with a partner and they don't want to make sure that you have your own security, you'd be able to be okay with or without them, just in case they're no longer here. Say they're thinking about like long term, if they die or something, you're going to be set up, you're going to be okay. But why is it that there's not planning on, if we don't find that this relationship to be a successful investment in our time and energy within a certain point, we should both have the means to be able to separate ourselves instead of holding on to each other. And I feel like that's a healthy way. But I feel like for somebody who's an opportunist, which a lot of narcissists are, I feel like they see that as a way of, I can trap this person. Because if it
Mhm.
was really coming from a place of love, they would want to be sure that you're set up regardless to whether they're here, they die, or you're just no longer happy with them anymore.
Well, I mean, that's in a perfect world, so it's like it's not
That's
always
no,
like
that's in a world of boundaries, because that's where we got to get to a point where if that's not something that we can agree upon, then I don't think we on the same wavelength.
Mhm.
You know what
I
I'm saying?
That also goes into, do you value yourself though? A lot of that is because when you're in a narcissistic relationship, like you mentioned, a narcissist, they're going to be looking out for number one, they're going to be looking out for self. Um, But when you're in a healthy relationship, someone will instill value in you and tell you how valuable you are. And I've seen that as one of the key indicators of a toxic relationship or an unhealthy relationship is the lack of value that usually the survivor has. They don't have value in themselves. They don't see the worth in themselves. And that goes across socioeconomic lines. You can have a rich or poor person not value themselves. And if the
Mm-hmm.
person does not value themselves or see their own self-worth, you have an issue. That's a foundation for a problem. Because if someone doesn't truly love you and say you're worth being healthy and having means without me or with me, that's someone that's looking out for you. But for you to receive that word and be like, yeah, I am, then they will go ahead and instill those boundaries and say, what kind of agreement do we have in our marriage or in our relationship that if you weren't with me anymore, I'm still going to be okay. I'm going to still be sad. And that's not something, I'm gonna go back to society, does not instill. We have a problem in our society, even across just the United States of America, of misogyny, a disrespect of women. You don't
Mm-hmm.
respect the value of a woman. We are typically seen less than in a relationship and not valued equal to our mate or our partner. And that's a problem.
Or I feel like just socioeconomically for men, it's like a single, and I don't want to say this, but like a single man could probably survive and support himself. I know now everything's like different, but I feel like more realistic than a single woman. And I feel that women are often seen from, this is just conversations that I've heard when you speak about misogyny. For example, at work, a man, he was saying, if you had to come back in the next life as a man or a woman, what would you pick? And I told him, I said, I would come back as a man because I want to know how it is to be the top of the food chain. Like basically you walk out your house and everything is set up for you. And that I'm just curious, like what that would be like. And he was like, no, you shouldn't look at it like that because when you're a man, he said, when you're a woman, you can call up somebody that you dated 10 years ago and cry to them and ask them for money and they'll give it to you. You can ask a man for money in the street and he'll give it to you. He said, the life of a woman is so much easier. And it's almost like that resentment that they have towards us, that they think that we all really have it like that. But really, it's more realistic that they're able to get a job off their own merits. They're able to work and earn more than us and support themselves. Whereas, I feel like they look at it like we're always trying to finesse or things like that. So, and look at how our society is set up after the world wars. They set it up to where the man went out, and the woman stayed home, and very much set up on a family unit. You know what I'm saying? And that's what kept people working in the country and kept the economy going, was that idea of a family. So it's not even structured around matriarchal, for women to exceed or to create or to thrive on their own. That's like, they don't even conceive of that. You know what I mean? We are not supposed to be anything without being by the side of a man. Sometimes women are like, what's that one saying? Behind every man is a good woman. Like, we're expected to like support and prop them up. Even like men who are not in a romantic relationship with, you know what I mean? So it's just set up like that. And that's what I see,
And
like
you
from
know
that
where it gets
perspective.
even more messy though? It gets more messy when we talking about queer relationships because there ain't no man. Now it's two women and there's one that decides the more masculine of the role. So
Right.
that's even more, oh my God.
And it's
And I
like to
feel
think about some lesbian women take on, like, they look at the most toxic version of a man and they
and
try and
yep,
emulate that. And it's like, we not lesbians to be men, like
to be
in that
men,
sense, to be the
right.
toxic version of a man. Like, we are lesbian to love another woman, to share that life with another woman and create and build and grow. That's something that we find beautiful. But going back to, being a domestic servant and being, how you call it, objectified and things of that nature and abused, it's like we left there for a reason. So I have noticed that and wondered that in lesbian relationships, and that shows a lot in our society, that somebody always feels like they have to be the man or choose that role, and like what does that entail? And a lot of times those relationships, a lesbian relationship can be abusive as well. You know, women can be
Yeah,
abusive and
and that's what
there's
I was
less
just gonna say too, is
resources.
that when cops are called and it's two women getting into it, like, even, and I feel like it even goes this way too with men. I feel like when it comes to our LGBTQ plus community, I don't feel like legal things are taken, like they don't take these things so serious because they're like, oh, it's two girls fighting, you know how women are, two females fighting, let them work it out. You know what I'm saying? But like, and even too for males, like, if I feel like there's officers that have gotten very uncomfortable because I mean we could look back at cases like, where there's been cases of serial killers that could have gotten caught up in the moment, but there were officers that were uncomfortable with dealing with a situation that dealt with, where it triggered their homophobia, where they just didn't want to deal with it because it was two gay men. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I feel like the law has failed the LGBTQ community a lot when it comes to domestic violence. What's
We're
your
talking
opinion,
about
Joya?
the
Yeah.
systems in place. We have not come up to speed. What you both are talking about are gender roles. So gender roles are in in outside of the LGBTQ community. It's there to have a same-sex relationship, and you're trying to figure out what role. That's the gender role. So that is part of our culture. LGBT community is within culture. And I think when you're talking about the justice system in the legal system, they have not caught up to times. They are still we haven't had any kind of ratification or addressing any of the laws to really come up to speed with where culture and society is. So until there's a demand on the system will remain the same. You can't expect the system to evolve. Systems don't evolve. There usually has to be a demand put in place. And with that has to be some power and authority that the people take and say, this is what we need and this is how it best serves us. Unfortunately, a lot of times the people are separated from the systems in place because with those systems, we have privilege, we have wealth. Usually, people, I would say, people, normal people, we've seen it within history, right? Civil rights movement. The civil rights movement wasn't a whole bunch of money thrown at the system to make it change. It was a whole bunch of people pushed in the system saying, we demand change. If the people gather and the people say, this is what our unified request is, and this is what we want, we're putting a demand on the system will listen and the system will change. Other than that, you have a whole bunch of rich people who are the minority saying, this is how we're going to evolve the system. This is how we're going to change the system by putting these things in place. I've seen it both ways. It's either going to be a lot of money or a lot of people power. And when the two combine, we have a major change. When you have a whole bunch of people and some money's put there, like, yes, this is what we need, then you get the change usually quicker. I think a lot of times what I have said before and that I heard that I love is that we are not out strength, like we're not out, the people out there, we're out organized. We have not organized to the
Yes.
level to rise to demand the change that we need in the system to experience the different society that will really help us all. Because when we're talking about poverty, when you're talking about system of change to help the regular people in America, the regular rich people will be helped too. You're not outside of what harms us. That's healthcare. That's systems of justice, different things like that. You're not outside of that. They're within it. We just need to band together. You're going to have cross lines. You're going to have to work with people that you normally wouldn't hold hands with to make the system work for all of us.
Okay. Yes. And do you see that happening, Joya? Like, what's the word on the street? What's the 411? Like, very like out there, out, as far as like I know right now, this regime, that's taken over. How is that affecting like your work and the resources that people are able to
Mm,
access? Or
yeah, that's a good
Actually,
question.
Actually, I am seeing a lot of collaboration, a lot of allyship, and that has made me happy. I think people are waking up to say there's a lot of stuff that needs to change. We are not benefiting from all the changes that are going on. We need to come together. Um, I've seen it. I've seen it and I approve and I like it. And unfortunately, a lot of times when bad things happen, people wake up. People wake
True.
up and say, "This is not good. This is not good for any of us." Well, I won't say any of us because some people do benefit off of this. Let me go ahead and keep it real. Some people benefit, but a
Right.
lot of people are just like, we need to come together. This may not directly impact me. That's what I should say, but I see the wrong in it and I
Mm-hmm.
need to band together with someone who is being directly impacted. That is privilege and unprivilege coming together to say we want to get everyone the help. And I do see that happening. And I'm proud of our country for banding together on some of those points to say we demand a change.
That's
Right.
beautiful. That encourages me so much because you hear so much of the negative, and but it's true. Like the more the negative pressure, the more that the people band together. So
It's a
most
positive.
definitely,
I think
yes.
we have to look for silver linings right now. I think there is so much talk of the gloom that's going on. I always say you have to stare at the sun sometimes to look for the silver lining. You're going to have to search for the silver lining because you don't want to get depressed over these times. We have to look for the good and see the good. That's difficult to say a lot when things are going on that people are being hurt. Literally, people are being hurt. Um, gotta look for the good and from where you are at and who you are, what can you do to bring positive in this world? All of us have a place where we can bring harm or we can help. You have to choose what you're going to bring.
Like Esther, not to we go hit the Bible tip, but yeah, like or for such a time as this, it's not simple or everything is very, negative going around, but it's like we're called to be a light through all of this. And of course, it would have been awesome. Like, I be thinking all the time, oh, I wish I would have been my age, but in like 1992, when the economy was a little better and you could, have some more
Not
things were
1992.
because you had the whole 90s girl and things were
The
not things
90s girl.
I will say things were not easy, but I feel like they were simpler in a way as far as like just day-to-day life, like the rent and everything was cheaper and you had a little
Mm,
more job security, but it's like no, we were born at this time for whatever reason. I'm in this timeline and I'm going to make the most of it and try and be, a healing to this world. So but yeah, that's why it's good for us to come together as healers and to be able to like express that when it feels overwhelming. So
right.
I'm grateful for that.
And I feel like that kind of takes us in because I feel like one of the things that we talked about a lot was like the survival, kind of like the survival, like survival mode. And I feel like that's a major trauma response. Like we get into that survival mode. And then for those of us that have always been in like survival mode, like, you know, everybody grew up different. Some of us grew up where we didn't have much. Like I was the second oldest child to a single mother that it was, see, I think it was five of us all together, so yeah, like I'm the oldest girl, so I took on that mother role, like second mother role. And I feel like because of a lot of the the ways of where we kind of like go through these survival periods, when we get to a place where we can kind of like pull back a little bit and relax, we really don't. I feel like I have a really hard time. For me personally, I feel like I have a hard time like relaxing. And I noticed that because one of my friends, she had asked me if I was interested in getting a sound bowl healing session. And I was like, yeah, sure, I could do that. Girl, why in the middle of this session I'm over here like, did I lock the door? What's that noise? This is somebody in here? Like, I'm just all the things, all the disruptions. Did I remember to do this? Is the coffee still on? And I'm like, stop. I'm like, and I'm trying to work on it, but everything is just like, did I forget this? Did I forget that? And did I, even sometimes when I leave the house, because my mom would spin the block and be like, I don't think I locked the door. So now when I leave, I'm like, did I lock the door? Did I lock the door? And then whoever I'm with, they get irritated with me. Like, you don't remember that you locked the door, but it's a thing in me that I'm like, I worry about leaving the door unlocked, you know? So I feel like those are also trauma responses, because as adults we get into these relationships, but prior to being adults, where we're children, our first relationships are with our parents. So to like, I don't know if anybody else deals with that, but just being in that survival mode, and then carrying that on as an adult.
Well, I'm gonna give you big ups. Big ups for being vulnerable and sharing parts of your life and who you are, and for setting
Thank
this
you.
platform for these conversations because not enough of them are happening. So, big ups and props to you, Nina.
Thank you.
You really need to hear that because a lot of times when we're looking on the inside and we check things within us to say, I'm experiencing this, what is that? That is one of the first steps of healing. And we have to uncover. I talk about social and culture a lot. Those are some of my passions in love. And what you were talking about was socialized adultification. Socialized adultification is when within society we place adult roles on children, and it's usually done in Black and Hispanic cultures.
Oh
That's where we've seen
shit.
it done. And you even see that when we talk to our children, especially in the Hispanic and Black. One of the things we call the little girls are mama, mamita. We say to our boys, papa. We say to our little girls, if they're Black, oh, she can cook, she can clean, she can do this, she can help. We put adult roles on our children.
Yeah.
And what that does is that doesn't allow them to have their full sense of childhood. It's a little bit robbing them, and it gives the parents almost like a helper in the house. And usually, when they're looking at the boys, they're not looking at them as a man until he's of age. He gets to stay a child. They'll call him Papa,
Mhm.
but he gets to stay a child. The girl is the one that's usually put in an adult role. Now, the boys get it later. I'm not leaving the boys out. They usually are taking on that more paternal and like father figure roles. And we've seen, I talk about art too. We've seen that in movies. We see that in movies. Movies adopt that culture too. We'll see that being a man of the house when he's a teenager, if there is no dad in the house. We've seen that. We know how media adapts to culture and culture adapts to media. It goes in and out. It goes there. And so when you're talking about that, it is a part of like the trauma response. Like, did I do that? Did I do that? It's learned from what you saw your mom doing. And it's
Mhm.
also something that you never really got to let free and just be a child. And that's going to be okay. And being that present where you were talking about, let me just experience this. That's because that's how your wires were created to always be looking out. And it's bad. We almost have to call it out and we almost have to do that
Mhm.
retraining like I was talking about because it's so natural to you. You've been an adult probably for a minute and I just met you.
Oh girl. Oh girl,
Not
I've been
calling
an
you
adult.
out, not calling you
No,
out.
it's true. It's true. And like the thing is that I feel like I mean I feel like I feel like my mom sees that. Like I feel like I feel like she sees that. Like that, I've been an adult since I was 9. Like that's the crazy part. Like since I was 9 years old, I've been doing adult shit. Like cleaning, cooking, taking care of my siblings. Um,
Same.
let's see. Yeah, like
That's
when
why
I
I can see
was,
it.
yeah, when I think I was like 16, I had 2 jobs. 14, I had my first job. So yeah, I've been an adult for a long time. Like,
Or also, not just the physical roles, but what about also when you grow up with a dynamic too, and it can be the same both at once, coinciding, but where a lot of us as women, we take on our mother's emotional
Hmm.
baggage. What does that look
mm,
like? Drive me around, follow your
mm,
dad, see where he went at. You know what I'm saying? Like sending us to spy or them breaking
yeah,
down to us crying
telling about
at
their
a young
relationship
age. Yes,
issues,
us being
yeah,
our mother's
confiding in
therapist.
us, yeah,
Yes.
telling you about how, well, see, with me, like back in those days, because again, like, not to call, not to say anything, but again, like I grew up in a single, like, well, my mom was a single mother, so she relied on child support, what I'm saying? But if she wasn't getting that, then I was the one calling my dad, like, hey, what's up? You know what I'm saying? I'm a little kid, and that shit would make my dad cry. And I would hate that. I would hate to be put in the middle of it. And it happened a lot.
The thing is, we didn't realize what was happening at the time, until you get older, and then you're like, damn, like you start thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But and
think.
then oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, I was just saying it's kind of a because my mother's no longer, with us. So I look back and I have empathy for her, even though knowing that that was wrong for her, because my mother was one of those. I feel like we're trying to be real careful in this conversation. We're like, I had a friend who said,
I know, and I don't want us to do that. Like that's the thing is that if like divine forbid, like, and I would hope that you know, I would hope that me and my mother are at a place where like, where it's okay for me to talk about these things. But at the same time, I have to take that risk with me being open and vulnerable with how I grew up and her not being okay with that. But it's my story.
right, and just
It's
knowing
it's
that,
my story.
yes, and being able to look back and be like, for a 30-year-old or 25, however old your mother was, to be doing that and breaking down to you and emotional to a 9-year-old and confiding in a 10-year-old or whatever. I have empathy for that woman, because what
Mhm.
loneliness you must have felt, that and
Yes.
desperation, that your child was literally the only friend that you had in that situation. And
Mhm.
at the same time be able to say that wasn't right, and as a parent now say, if I'm upset or having a bad day or issues or whatever, that's hard, but like I can't confide in my child, or I can't not even confide, but like just even kind of give them the peek into that adult business type thing.
Mhm.
Like that really should not have nothing to do with their childhood experience, and knowing that, yeah, that was a real part of ours a lot of time, added to the caretaking in the home, and that expectation was also the emotional, and knowing that that wasn't right, and that that kind of set us up in life to be, I don't know, Joya, what do you feel like the trauma response to someone who was like an emotional caregiver to a parent? Like, how would you say that that would affect us later on?
Well, that's a big one because when you're talking about roles, that should not be the role of a child to be an emotional caretaker of the parent. However, however, when you raise a responsible child and you're teaching them empathy and caring, is the mother someone in the family? She is. So to check on mom and say, "Are you okay?" I see that as a sign of love and tenderness. That child shouldn't have the role of making it better. That should not be their role. But to check in on a parent, I think that that's actually beautiful, and that's something I would love to see more children, because maybe what they can do is hand you a tissue to wipe your tears or give you a hug or sit next to you. That probably gonna break a mama down more. Like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
it's gonna break you down more. But to teach your child love and empathy, but to let them also know, use your words. Thank you for checking on mom. I'm gonna be all right. I want you to be okay. That's my job. They can check in on you though. So I don't want to put the like a disclaimer on there that said that's inappropriate for a child to care, because I think other cultures they do teach their children. We take care of all members of the family. Just because the mom is one of the adults does not disclude her from not being checked on, because we don't do that enough. The one
Right.
who is the caretaker usually does not get the checking in. They usually check on everyone else, where sometimes it would mean the world to a mother for a child just to step in. So I wouldn't look at it as a trauma response. I would think about, we have to see within our culture where we have progressed and where we have regressed and where we never have grown. And that's something, is to teach the empathy to our children now, because the world needs it and we actually need it. Because a lot of our homes, they're tight. It's not like back in the day. I remember back in the day going to my friend's house. The grandma lived there, the auntie was always there, the cousins were in there. It was a
Mhm.
broader level of
Yeah.
family.
It
Now you go in
was.
someone's house, it's usually like their main family and that's it. And I think almost after COVID, what we've seen is a lot of people, they're not even open their doors for people to come in. And so family needs to understand, we look out for each other like no other. bring back that closeness and that open line to communication, that we check on each other. And just because I'm the mom does not mean that I don't need care for too, but it's not your role to fix it.
See, yeah, but I feel like children tend to do that a lot though. Like they tend to internalize what's going on in their environment and find like in find what way it's like they've somehow created that problem.
Hmm.
Like for me a lot, like for me, I remember as a child growing up, like I hated seeing my mom struggle, and it was almost like I started trying to I remember I wanted to get my first job because I wanted to be able to take care of myself so that she could take care of them. Like that's where I was at.
Yeah. And I understand that, and I completely get that. And it
Mm.
shows that you had a good mom. You had a good mom that instilled that care in you. What can I do to bring some money or some support and relief? Relief is what
Mm.
you're bringing into the house. So that shows
Yeah.
that you had a good mom that instilled that in you. Because some kids will be like, I don't care, we'll be all right. And be like, oh, I hope
Oh
we
Stay
are.
no.
up, Mom. God don't
No,
bless
see that wasn't an option because that's the thing is like my mom like see so I'm in a way it's like I had this conversation with my bestie like the other day, like I'm kind of glad that my mom whooped my ass the way she did though. You know what I'm saying? Like in a way I kind of am because if she wouldn't have did that, like I probably wouldn't have had I know I was different compared to like I would go over to friends' houses and mainly in the areas my friends were mainly all white. So I would go over to my friends' houses and then they talking about like fuck you mom, shut the fuck up mom, and I'm like, if I was to say that to my mom, I'd be picking my teeth up off the floor. You know what I'm saying? Like, how are you talking to your mother like that? That's your mom. Like, she goes to work, she takes care of you, she feeds you, she got this. And then the moms are hearing me tell their kid this, and they're like, you know what I'm saying? The moms wanted me around their kid because they're like, you need to start seeing things the way she's seeing it. Because I'm like, bro, I would never say that to my mom. You know what I'm saying? Like I know better not to talk to my mom like that. So I ain't even gonna lie. She did let me know like, hey, like you're not gonna talk to me in certain ways. Um, I don't know if that was fear or if that was respect, but
It
like,
sounds like both. It sounds like both. It sounds like both. And I think a healthy dose of fear is that's what the Bible talks about. The beginning of what? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Like
uh,
you.
that
Like you
goes
gotta
back.
know your limits, your boundaries.
uh, yeah, but then see, it's like I feel like what got me was why didn't we keep up that same type of energy when it came to other people? You know
Mm,
what I'm saying? Because if you're gonna practice that with your children, practice that in your relationships as well. You know what I'm
But
saying?
that's a
Like, don't.
power dynamic, sis, because your children, you're in control of them. And a lot of people, what is the thing that you're gonna discipline your kids for? I hear a lot of moms and even myself, don't embarrass me. Don't make me look bad out here. With another person, your mom wasn't in control of that. She might have even felt intimidated by other adults in her life. She might have felt like she was, you know what I'm
Mm,
saying, could only go so far in speaking up to them. But with your child, it's like you're responsible for them. You're responsible for how they present themselves to the world, how they sound, and so there can be a lot more that they put that energy and that onto us. That's they wouldn't talk to someone else like that because they're not in charge of raising that person, or there's a
right,
different power dynamic with that person. So
right.
truth.
So I mean, I feel like I've gotten better with like my trauma responses because I feel like my trauma response back in the day was definitely violence first and then talk later, figure it out afterward. Like like that's how it was before. Like when I was a teenager, like I was really bad, like with fighting, really bad, and I had to like at some point in my 20s when I started to get into therapy and started to work on myself. Maybe it was closer to my 30s. I'm probably giving myself too much credit. I think it was in my 30s. And I had realized that all them fights that I had gotten into in my mind and in my heart, like I was fighting my mom. You know, because that's where I had the most, like, I had to do the most healing was in that relationship. And I feel like that a lot of that kind of goes into my relationships with other people. You know, so I had to work on that part. And don't get me wrong, like I'm still, you know, I'm still working on that part because um I don't, it doesn't get me to a level of being like of like being physical, like how I was back in, like back in the days, back in my teens, right? But I just don't like I don't like the anger feeling when I feel it. I don't like that feeling because I know that I can relate that feeling back to when I was younger and then how I used to handle it then. And I'm still working on finding better ways of working with that feeling. And usually I put it into my art. Usually I'll put it into like music, or I'll, you know, I'll just jam out, or you know, I'll do something like that. But it still doesn't feel good while it's there, you know? Like when it lets me know it's there, it doesn't feel good.
Right. Or as far as like feelings in the sense of, for example, like looking back on relationships or in the past and realizing the toxicity of it. It can be a friendship or even a toxic workplace that was
Mhm.
abusive. And realizing the pattern that you were in and that you couldn't even see it. And that can also create anger. Like personally, like looking back and seeing, oh, they try to play me, or like these people when they was acting nice they really was doing this, or that can really create this bitterness. And I hate to say it, but it's like how people say like we didn't ask for that at all and it was wrong that it was done to us, but accepting that now it's our job to fix that, because I didn't want to just be this angry person every day when I woke up, or resentful, or not going out and still trying and living and loving, not trying to sound like no laugh live love thing, but I'm saying it can really, because it's not to sound childish, but it's not fair. Like you shouldn't have been a victim in that situation, but it's like, how do we not bleed all over other people? How do we not sabotage our future? And that's not easy. And it's like y'all were saying, talking about healing earlier. And I think it's important that anybody who's watching or anybody understands that healing is not linear. It's not from point
Mhm.
A to point B. It might be a day that you're doing great. And then you have a day where you feel upset or you can't get out of bed or just, but like, what is y'all's take on that? If somebody is in that process where they're outside, they made the choice, they were able to make the change, they left the toxic job or the friendship or the relationship, but now they're dealing with that kind of like, not the movies, but where all the little math symbols, you're like, wait a second, this was this and this was that, and now they're putting a name to it. How would you recommend that they deal with that resentment or that sadness that comes with what you lost? It's almost like a grief, realizing what was done.
Yeah, anytime, that's a really good point, Stephanie. Anytime someone talks about healing, like wounds, I think of Chancellor Oral Roberts. I remember Oral Roberts said there's two truths that God created: the Bible and nature. So, whatever someone's religious belief is, respect, but that's what I believe, the Bible. But when he said nature, we can look at nature and say, how does a wound heal? That's where I'm going. How does a wound heal?
Mhm.
If you get cut, it's to first recognize I got cut, maybe what cut me, stay away from that, and also to clean it, because without cleaning it, become infected, or it can get worse, or it can bleed on other things and contaminate other things. So a lot of times when I break down to other people that I work with, what does that look like? If we look at nature, how has nature resolved that issue? And a lot of times we can get solid answers. And I think that goes to healing, is to assess what happened, to correct what happened, and to bring forth that healing. Put some ointment on it, wash it out so that nothing else can get in it. That's the same within our lives. What hurt us? Stay away from that thing that hurt us, or say, don't be careful of that, that edge is sharp or something like that, and then go ahead and get the healing, get some kind
Mm.
of help or support so that it doesn't grow worse. Because we know something that is not addressed and tended to, it can grow worse. And then it can get on other people, other things that's unintended. And then those things become infected with bad blood. That's what I'm talking about, is leading and bleeding on others. That's not healthy. And so a lot of times if we can look at nature and say, how has nature solved these problems? We don't have to be a scientist or a doctor to figure that out. You know how to dress a wound. You know how to
Mhm.
heal it. You know how to stay away from things that hurt. And then to go ahead and bring healing that way, clean it, get some help, get some support. And it does feel good when you can take your hand and give it to someone that you trust, and they bind it for you and can wrap it for you and take care of you. That does feel good. And a lot of times what that looks like is therapy. And if you don't have therapy, someone that loves you and that you love and trust to talk to. A lot of times having that somebody that you can lean on and to help, that will bring forth and usher healing and help. So that's
Mm.
what I have to say about that.
Mm. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's
That was
beautiful.
good. That was real good.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, the trauma responses. I don't, it's good for us to learn these things because it's like, in a way, it's like our body talking to us. Like, learn how your body responds to certain situations. Like, does it get you anxious? Does it, like, and like identifying that, and like Joya had said, yeah, removing yourself. Sometimes removing yourself is like, maybe you got to move away. I moved away from everybody for a long time. I left. I'm like a whole Lion King story. Cause I left. I was like Simba. I was out Akuna Matata up in this bitch. I was out. And something called me to come back to the very place that I left a very long time ago. And that, like, in a lot of ways it felt like, damn, like, for a moment it felt like failure, until I had realized that that's not what this was. This was me having to come back to a place where my journey started, to heal a part of me that needs to be healed, and that may have been to come back and you know like make some changes. I feel like here's the issue is diversity, and it was very much an issue of diversity when I was a small child. I got picked on for being just for being brown. So for me to come back here as an adult and to now be in the position that I'm in, and to be organizing the things that I'm organizing here in the community, I feel like this is what I came back here for. And I do feel like it is safe to kind of return to the places that scare you or that hurt you, because that's you got to get your I got some power I got to get back from here before I leave again. You know what I'm saying? So I might just be here for a little bit, but I came back to get mines before I go, because there was a piece of little Nina that was broken here.
So powerful. You're talking about your roots.
Yeah, my roots.
So
Yes.
powerful. And so
Thank you.
brave. And so brave to return to your roots. Woo. Woo. That can be so much. So kudos, because a lot of times with your roots is the place where there was some hurt. And that
Mhm.
also means to readdress that. But there's some good there. There's some good in the roots. But
Oh yeah.
sometimes, you know what's there, and sometimes you don't because it's underneath. So
Right.
that's a lot.
Yeah. See, and the way that I see it is that I feel like there's kids here. Like, if what had happened to me when I was little was happening to me then, I know that it's still happening now. And I feel like I was a very quiet kid. I was real quiet. I followed that, being seen and not being heard. That was me. I was real quiet. And like I laughed about it because like in school, I remember that there was teachers that thought that I didn't speak English, so they were sending in like Spanish interpreters to talk to me, like she doesn't talk, like we don't think that she understands us. And then these like Spanish speaking people come in to talk to me, and I'm responding to them in English, and they're like, she understands you. And they were like, well, why isn't she talking, or why does she act like she doesn't understand? You know, so like I feel like there's kids that are like that right now, that is like, now that I developed this loud ass voice, like I came here to use it for them. So, you know, so that's yeah, that's my mission here. I feel like as long as we come back, we can rewrite that story. We don't have to live with that. Doesn't have to be the end of it. You know, we can rewrite that. We can come back to the places where our trauma started, especially if we can come back stronger. We can come back healed. We can come back confident. We can come back with a better sense of self, and like not only just heal those parts of us, but also to help others that are also experiencing those things and that might not have the voice for themselves to be able to do it.
You better say that. You better say that. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
No,
Joya, what are, oh, I'm
oh,
sorry, go ahead, sis.
no, I was just saying that's beautiful to be able, as an adult, to say that you are the person that your younger version of you would have been safe with now. So,
Yeah. I had to create that because I didn't see that in nobody. I had to create that, like, for me. You know, and that's, I feel like that takes away, because for people that have been through a lot of trauma, we can become very codependent, especially when we find our healing in somebody else and we don't find it within ourselves, like, or in our divine that we believe in. It's like that becomes, they become our crutch, and it's like, no, you're not if you're gonna have a crutch, let it be let it be your beliefs, let it be who you pray to, let it be your ancestors, let it be yourself, like be that adult that you wish you would have had in your life when you were a kid. You know, like, because when we try to find that within somebody else, um that's why that brokenness comes along when that person's no longer there. and
Or
and mm-hmm.
or like what you're saying, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, 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 go ahead.
Or something else. With a lot of
Oh,
abuse and trauma, what you're talking about with the codependence, you can look at that word dependence right there. A lot of people find their relief and their support in substances. Let's not forget
yes.
that. We've talked a lot about relationships, but we do find people who use substances as a mechanism to bring healing, self medicating, or absence of self in their situation, or to forget their previous situation. So, like what you're saying is true, but some people also use substances for that as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was a heavy drinker at the age of 14. Like, so by 14 I was heavily drinking. I was out in the streets when I was 15. So you know, my drinking lasted up until I think I was about like maybe 20, I want to say 26, 28. So I used alcohol for a really long time to deal with what I was feeling, and yeah, I had a whole, so I was very young when I had first started having like suicidal thoughts. I could remember like my earliest was probably like maybe like 8 or 9, around that time, like around when I started feeling like more things were my fault. So that was like the way that I dealt with that, was because I was brought up in like a Catholic household, Catholic, but Mexican Catholic, so brujas, but Catholic. So in my head, I'm like, I didn't want to kill myself, because I'm like, if I kill myself, I'm gonna go to hell. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be there, but I would put myself in very dangerous situations. Like, when I first moved out to Chicago, I would frequent really like bad K Town. Like, I was in a little village. I was in all the areas. 26. I was in all the areas with all the wrong people, because I wanted so bad to not be here, but I didn't want to take myself out. I would put myself in situations that I probably wasn't gonna make it out of, and I would always make it out. And I was like, so then I got to a point, like, I'm like, damn, like, not even God wants me. like, like, not even God wants me. What is this? As I have like a little bit of a sick humor, so forgive
No, it's
anybody
not
that's
as.
watching, okay?
I would say that is a trauma response. What you were just talking about is that risky behavior. That is
Yeah.
literally a trauma response. And we see that with so many people who go through traumatic experiences and traumatic lives, they do risky behavior. So, yeah, yeah, it's a trauma response, what you're experiencing.
Wow. I feel like we got all the names. I'm so glad we got you here, Joya. I had to fight back tears like about 5 times. I ain't even gonna lie. My throat chakra was like and then like I'm getting that
No,
knot. I get that knot, and I'm like, it's all right. We got this. We got this. We strong.
no, I just want to bring love and some of the knowledge that I have and some of the experience that I have. That's when Stephanie, contacted me to come. I was like, absolutely. To share is part of bringing healing to this world. And
That's
so
it.
I am hoping that that's what I'm helping and doing because we are not in existence to live for ourselves, but it's for our fellow man. So if I can bring any kind of drop a little nugget or drop love or just even just be here to listen, or that is what we are here for. And I hope everyone identifies that, but I know that's what I'm here for.
Oh,
So
you're not dropping nuggets. You dropping boulders, girl. We
yeah.
needed that. We
Oh,
needed.
like Sade while she do. I said Sade is today.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I swear. And like I didn't even know. Okay, so it was such short notice that we got you on here. And when I contacted you, I didn't have the topic yet. And I hadn't read your bio until later after I decided on the topic, but Spirit spoke to me and they said, "Let's talk about trauma responses and talk and toxic relationships." And then when I saw your bio, I was like, "Shut the fuck up." Not Spirit. Like I'm talking to my like wait, they're like, "Hold up, wait, what?" Like no, but in my head I'm like, "Wow, like this is gonna be the topic and then our guest and yeah, I'm so grateful and sis, thank you for thinking about Joya and suggesting that she come on here because like I said, like Stephanie had nothing but like very highly grateful things to say about you, like just beautiful things to say about you. And I was like, oh man, like ask her if she wants to be on, like you know what I'm saying, like so yeah, I'm really glad. I'm really happy how this worked out. And I'm grateful that you're here with your knowledge and to be able to help identify some of these things. Like it I don't know if you I mean you have to know how much it helps to give these things names, right? You know that, right?
Yes, I've heard of that, and I do believe in that. I believe in it because it feels. I believe in humanity. What we want, and we say it a lot now, but it's to be seen and
Yeah.
to be heard. And when you put, it's like nomenclature. When you put a name to something, it brings power. It says,
Yeah.
"I'm not tripping," or "That's what that is." It's almost like a selah. It's almost like a
Uh-huh.
dang, like yeah. So
Or
there's power in naming things. There's power in a name. And so if that's the least I can bring, um, thank God. Like I'm happy to do that. And there's so much I don't want to get too, into you know, the science of it all. But
No,
when
that's good. Well,
when
go
I was hearing
ahead.
people talk, I was just like, that's what that is. That's what you need to know. That's what that is. And
Yeah.
so yeah, a lot of what you were talking about is just like, and it makes sense and it's true. But there's power in naming something, and when I say that, it's also powerful when you can name how you feel. And like, I don't know, I just feel gross. I just feel bad, or I just feel like
Mhm.
crying. How do you feel? Put a word to it. I felt angry. I felt betrayed. When you can speak that out there, healing begins and attached to what needs to happen to bring forth that healing. So it's powerful to name something.
Mm-hmm. I feel
that
like that's a really great exercise. Like asking ourselves, and like, let's not just do it once a day. Let's ask ourselves multiple times a day, how am I feeling right now? How did that make me feel? When's the first time that I've ever felt that way? Like asking ourselves those questions, like have those self talks because like I'm telling you is that shit helped me so much. Just checking in with myself multiple times a day helps me a lot. Like it's so helpful. And I feel like, you know, I feel like if we wish that there was somebody that was to check in on us, like let's like us being that person for ourselves, you know, and eventually maybe we'll have that, you know. I'm sure we'll all get there one day, but I feel like first it starts with us, you know, us giving that to ourselves, and eventually somebody will, you know, join you in asking that, how are you today, you know, how are you feeling today.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And we need that. I think a lot of times one of the reasons why we don't do it is because we don't want to be seen or feel weak. The human wants to be strong at all times. We have to dispel that. It is
Mhm.
okay. It doesn't mean that I'm weak because I'm sad. It doesn't mean I'm weak because I feel betrayed. It's what happened to me, and we have to disconnect what happened to us becoming us. That's one of
Mhm.
the major things with healing. A lot of times we own what happened to us, and that becomes a part of our personality. We personify the hurt, and it's just like, no, that happened to me, but that's not me. So you can go
Mhm.
ahead and speak that. And a lot of times we don't do that. And I don't know what that is. We don't want it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to not be whole. It's okay to say that took a piece out of me. I'm not whole right now. That's okay. You're going to get back whole because our brain is not going to let us just be out there wilding out. It's going to
You're
start
right.
bringing forth some healing. Like this is okay. This is what we're going to do. Your brain is going to automatically do that, and when it doesn't, that's when we need to seek help. Like I'm struggling. I'm struggling. It's okay to say that too. I'm struggling. I'm not recovering as quick as I used to. This is not me. It's okay to name all that. Seek help immediately.
Mhm. Yes. And you know, to go along with what Joya had said, like I feel like when we know ourselves on that level, because I've also too, like being in you know, when you're in toxic relationships, like sometimes being in those type of relationships, people will try to tell you who you are in that relationship. So that's why it's important for us to be strong in knowing who we are, and not being, not like, not letting somebody outside of us tell us who we are, because I've seen that a lot too, where, you know, like where somebody will say, oh, you know, well, you're, because of what you've been through, you know, you're too scared to, you're too scared to, like, you know, be vulnerable with me or something like that. And if you're like, no, like I feel like I'm pretty vulnerable, like that's where it's like we gotta like am I, or you know, because like for somebody that feels like they're pretty vulnerable and they're open to being vulnerable with certain people, it's not that you're not open to being vulnerable within that relationship. It just might not be that person that gives you that space that makes you feel comfortable in being vulnerable. It doesn't mean you're not a vulnerable person or you don't know how to be vulnerable. But if you didn't know yourself, when somebody you're with tells you, oh, you don't know how to be vulnerable, if you weren't strong within your own identity and who you are and knowing yourself, you might take that and be like, oh, I don't know how to be vulnerable, you know, like, and that's like, it's like, you know, I've seen that a lot too, like where people in toxic relationships, where where somebody will tell you who you are or what you're not doing, or oh, you're not, you know, like, do you kind of get what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm
Hmm.
explaining myself enough. Yeah.
Yeah, they're almost
Okay.
putting a title on you or
Yes.
putting a label on you, and those
Mm-hmm.
are unhealthy. You have to know who you are within a relationship. That's why I say it's good to know who you are before you enter in a relationship. To be with someone and to be stronger and better, that's great. But if you are not strong in who you are, you're open for someone else to tell you who you are and who you're going to be.
Girl, where my clap noise? Where my clap noise? Cause I need something for that one. That was good. I like that one. That was good. What we got? Yes, that's
Yeah.
so important. It's so important. You
It's
know,
true.
and I've also seen that too within, like, I've seen spirituality and religion be used in toxic relationships as a way of, like, especially in religion, like, oh, you know, it's the, you know, like they'll use God a lot, like the Bible a lot, to kind of like force you to be in a certain, be a certain way within the relationship. Or even, you know, in my religion, we get consultations, we get guidance, we get readings, and sometimes those things have been used in relationships. Oh, well, don't forget, you were told that you have to be this way, you were told that you have to be that way, you're not listening, you're not following what you were told. Like they use that a lot also. Like I don't know if you guys have ever, like within your own practices, if you've ever dealt with that type of thing where your
Mhm.
guidance or your belief or your religion was used against you to try to, like, you know manipulate you in some way,
Or dominate.
or
Domination.
dominate you.
It's a form of abuse
Mm.
because they're taking something and putting it over you and dominating you, putting it over. And it's just like, that's why you have to know who you are. It goes back to that. It goes back to that. When you identify with different qualities in a relationship, another person, or religion, that should be by choice. And that is the power of choice because you are giving your will and your agreement to something. Without that, domination. And that's a form of abuse.
Mm.
Without your will being involved, that's abuse because now you're pressing something on me that I'm not asking for nor did I request it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I love that. So what are some cuz we're getting like to the last 5 minutes of the show, and I could keep going cuz I'm loving this.
Oh,
I am hoping, Joy, I'm hoping that we get to have you back. If you'd like to be back for any future shows, we would love to have you back cuz
thank you.
yeah, this is it's so helpful. And I feel like everybody, and I've been I'm sorry, you guys. I've been like forgetting about the comments. I forgot about y'all in the
No, you're
comment
good.
section.
Take your moment and look at the comments.
Okay,
That's a
I
good
do see
segue
you
for that.
guys. We got Jackie in here. Beba is here. Let's see. Um, Jackie was laughing. She said that she has an order of protection right now. So that was back at the beginning when we were talking about the order of protection and I actually just had, one of my orders just ended the beginning of this year. So yeah, I was another person that had an order of protection on someone. So yeah, like it was, and that's why we were like, damn, like when you said it, because we are like, yeah, that's true. Um,
Like, are you calling us broke? No.
and
No, I
but
told you that's what someone
but
I worked with said. And
I
when I
know.
heard it, I was just like, I didn't know what to say. I was just like, let me think for a minute.
uh and but
Thanks for
for real though, if I would have had, you know what I'm saying, if I would have had a different, like, I actually, I just wanted that person just to, like, just I just wanted that person to give me space and respect my boundaries and leave me alone, and they wouldn't. So that's kind of where I had to do that. And then they started like going on like social media and like bashing me on lives and stuff. So I had to get the order of protection for that situation.
Sure.
And I'm actually I'm waiting for somebody to turn of age right now so I could get an order of protection against them, because I got somebody that's been like stalking me since they were 15. And I wish we could they should make that to where adults can get order of protection against, like, against minors too, because I think that
Yeah.
that, like, you know what I'm saying, like minors do shit too. So, you know, and
It's
she's
a whole
probably gonna
nother subject.
it's a whole
It's
nother subject.
a
She's
whole
probably gonna
nother
watch this
subject.
because she watches all of them. So
Yeah, but that's just you putting legal boundaries with someone that doesn't
yeah,
have personal boundaries. So now we got to get the system involved.
there we go. See, that's what I've used it for. Um, let's see, and then Jackie had also said, "Oh my God, yes, I tried not to do that with my daughter, but she's so spoiled now. LOL." So okay, so that's, I guess that could also be what we're talking about, like, not just romantic relationships, but the relationships between mother daughter, parent child, or whatever. Like, how would you, Joya, like, because I guess I want to give like some advice too for the mothers who feel that they might have kind of like coddled their children too much, or protected or shielded them too much, where that's now created a little bit of a toxic relationship, because now maybe they have kind of, given a child so much to where now that child feels like the world is just that easy. What is some advice that you could give for like an adult parent to or an adult a parent to an adult child?
That's a good question. We talk a lot in the field of work that I work in and about equity. Equity is different than equality. Equality is giving everyone the same. And when you're a parent, you can give everyone the same love, everyone the same attention. Equity is giving them what they need. Some people need less, some people need more, some people need less at different times, some people need more. I think you give a child what they need. And the way you do that is having firm lines of communication so that the child trusts you to know you will give them what they need. So it goes hand in hand with communication and equity. I think when we raise children, we give them what we need. And a lot of times, as a parent, because I'm a parent too, we either are a victim to giving our children what we wanted, giving them what we want, or what we think they want. They have a brain. They know what they're experiencing in their life. Give a child what they need. And sometimes that's tough love. Is a child going to say that to you? No. But when I ask them what you're going through, what you need, I can say that's what you're asking for in my head. But open up the lines of communication and give them what they need. If you do that, you usually be steered in the right direction.
Now, Joya, I got a question because you had mentioned we usually give our children what we want to give them, and what about for those that are parenting out of trauma based off of what they didn't have and then wanting to give their kid the world because they didn't have it?
Mm-hmm.
And then also to shielding them from a lot because they were exposed to so many things, whereas they just didn't want their child to be exposed to anything.
I see that a lot. I see that so much. You need healing. I think it's hard to even determine sometimes when you're a parent that some of the love or some of the parent rearing that you're given is hurting your child. That's why, as a parent, you need someone to talk to, because a lot of times, if you have someone that you trust in your life, they'll call those things out. That's why you need people in your life that can see you and your children. They're like, girl, you're smothering that baby. You need to let him go outside. Ain't nobody gonna take him. Let him go play. Let him
uh,
get some sunshine. Like,
uh,
they're worried about him getting kidnapped. Yes, there are people
uh,
that get kidnapped. No one is, diminishing that. However,
uh,
you are now hurting that baby. Like, you
right.
need people in your life that can speak to you and speak to those things. So it's raising our children in a community. I can't
Mm.
express that enough. A lot of times, especially now, we're so isolated with everything we do, and anybody can tell us nothing. Open yourself up to receive love, and receive instruction and give instruction. Everything is a two-way street when it comes to raising our children. And when we put that in isolation, a lot of times we can go wrong. So listen to others sometimes because we can't see it, and that's a difficult thing. A lot of times we're like, I'm smothering them. No parents are going to say that because to them, that's love, that's protecting them.
Hmm.
Be open for somebody to speak life into you and love into you.
Ache. I love that. All right. So, sis, anything you wanted to do you want to bring anything up, sis? Steph, you got some questions when it comes to parenting, girl?
No, no, I'm good. I'm just so glad that we had this chance, like, to all sit down today. Joy is somebody that I've always held in, high esteem, and just like her genuineness and her knowledge and her candor and like just her realness is like you don't find that in a lot of people, and you have that also, Nina. You have so many good qualities, and y'all both have that similar like that that drive for the community and that love for people. And it's crazy, like y'all come from different parts of the globe or like different parts of the country, and different, religious background, but it's like that's like really encouraging. I'm glad that we all, we had a little
Right.
and I hope everybody was blessed from it, anyone that heard it.
Oh
So
yeah, for sure. This was a really great show, and I feel like we covered so many like really great like topics and uh I guess like something that we could sis, like what do you are there exercises that you do like when you start to feel like anxiety? Cuz I
yes.
feel like there's okay, cuz I feel like there's like I don't know, I just feel like somebody's going to watch this that's going to be like, "Oh, like, that certain things like anxiety might be an issue with them," and there might even be somebody watching right now. That's me.
So
Oh,
I think
somebody-
no, I was thinking how Joya was saying that everything is scientific in our brain, and our brains are hardwired for us to survive. So I used to have something personally that I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would start worrying, and I would have these kind of negative, heavy feelings of like, did I do right by my kids? Am I doing right by them? And that would disturb me. Like, and I would notice by the time the sun was up at 6 or whenever the sun came up, and during the day or in the evening, I would not have those feelings. So I started to kind of take a bird's eye view to kind of withdraw and say, okay, I'm waking up at 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning, to go run to the restroom. My body, your body and your brain is in the most vulnerable state because you're actually all of your serotonin and all of that is in the lowest. So that accounts for the kind of low feelings. And because of my past or wanting to make sure everything's good, that was my brain like filing through like, hey, now you're awake. Okay, like is everyone okay? Are the kids in bed? Like are you raising them right? Are you doing so I had to see like I was waking up at kind of a vulnerable time for my mind. And my mind was literally trying to protect me and my children. And I had to thank my mind. Thank you for being there. And that's what a lot of anxiety and fear is your brain trying to protect you. Okay, so I had to say thank you for protecting me. But my kids are in bed. They're safe. We're all safe here. I've been a great mom. I'm going to continue to be a great mom. And that's not something that I need to feel this heavy burden for at this hour. So also telling myself between the hour I wake up and the hour I go to sleep, that's when I think about life decisions and things of that nature. I'm not going to be thinking of that when I get up to pee in the middle of the night and start feeling guilty and start feeling, questioning myself or replaying things. So it was me thanking my brain, thank you for keeping me safe, and telling it that's no longer needed. You don't have to alert me. I don't have to be on high alert at that hour. As long as the kids are in bed and there's nothing bad going on, like there's no reason for that. And would you know, like, honestly, when I put a name to it, like you were saying, and I called it out and I thanked it, I have been able to override that. I wake up now,
Mm.
sometimes or whatever, and I don't have those feelings. And that was just amazing to me that once I kind of tapped into the scientific part of it, and I had to transfer that energy, because bad moms don't wake up in the middle of the night questioning, are they a bad
Yep.
mom?
Yep.
So
That's right. That's
a lot of
right.
it is giving yourself that space and realizing, okay, our brain is wired for survival. So whatever choices that I made, I'm not going to hold that against myself. And to kind of realize that now that's not necessary. Maybe there was a time in your life where your brain was like, okay, I got you. Like, we're good. Now you're not in that space anymore. And just calling it out, thanking your brain for doing what it's supposed to do. And then creating a new pathway that you can kind of like start living by. So I hope that that helps anybody because it certainly
So
did with me.
like a reprogramming.
Yeah.
Right. Like so you found the pattern and you identified it and you reprogrammed it.
Yes.
Awesome. Fucking love it. I love it. You see, it's steps like this that we need to share with people because they're like, oh, like, okay, we got names to these things now, thanks to Joya. Like, Joya done named off the shit that I've been dealing with since I was, you know what I'm saying? Like, and now it's like, okay, like, now how can we, like, how what exercises, what things can we do within ourselves to, because I feel like a trauma response a lot of times kind of knocks us off our like our energetic feet. So we got to kind of find our grounding, right?
Hmm.
And a good exercise that my best friend had shared with me is that like because there was one time I was having this was last year sometime when I was going through all that whole situation that sis that bad situation. I'm in the process of writing a book about it now, but I went through this whole situation and my best friend like had to calm me down, and she's like, okay, she's like, identify three things in the room. So I'm like, okay, looking around, I'm like, three things in the room. Okay, I told her what they were. She was like, okay, three things that you can hear. I paid attention to, so she had me use my senses and identify three things with each sense. and it helped. It really worked because at that moment I'm freaking the fuck out in here, and and the mind is just racing and going, and I think at that point I was like, flight. I wasn't in fight no more. I was in flight. Like bitch, we gone. Like,
Mhm.
you know. So I feel like those exercises, and breathing too, like the breathing through it, like, all those things help. Positive affirmations. I believe Joya was talking about positive affirmations earlier when she was saying, that she tells herself this stuff and that stuff. And, same with Stephanie. I feel like we've kind of, so positive affirmations are really good. As I'm saying all this, my snake is shedding its skin right in front of me. So, shedding our skin, like we're growing, we're constantly growing, we're constantly growing out of things. And it's good to shed those things so that we can, like, reveal something fresh, reveal something new. If we're tired of, if you're tired of not being happy enough, if you're tired of not being healthy enough, if you're tired of not being successful enough, like, let's start to work on getting ourselves right, getting ourselves better. That way we can attract those type of energies, because if we're not at our best, we're attracting low vibrational energies, and that's the law of attraction. So, chances are, if we're unhealthy within ourselves, we're going to attract unhealthy relationships. So it is important for us to work on our healing. It's important for us to work on our grounding, knowing ourselves. If you don't know who you are, if you how Joya, is that an exercise you work with at all? Like how does somebody, like, when you're like, when when somebody says, "Who are you?" Like, what are some of the things that people should, or not should, but what are some things that you can inspire us with, of what somebody could kind of, like, how somebody could figure out, like, how to, because you've given us words to so many things that we felt. How does somebody give themselves words to who they are?
Well, that's a really good one. I did that practice before. Thank you for that. I've done that practice before, really looking at who I am. It's the different dimensions of who you are. I usually can go down to physical. It goes down to how we identify. So it goes into so much. It's in layers. And I would say
Mm-hmm.
if somebody does it, it would probably need to be an exercise and somewhere written down. So if I say like I
Mm.
am a Black and Hispanic woman, I am cisgendered, I am able-bodied. It goes into like all of
Mm.
who you are and what that represents to you. So this means that, and this means that. If you can't unpack who you are and how the world sees you and how you see yourself, how are you going to navigate in this space? And so I would guide it by an exercise. You have to write it down. This is who I am. I grew up in poverty. What does that mean to how I relate to money, how I see the world, my schema, how I reflect, and what society goes through, what I think about money? That has a lot to do with the class that I was brought up in. How do I see my class? It's really breaking down your identity. We hold so many identities, and we have to unpack that, because somebody saying you some broke hood rat girl, I'm like, you don't even know me. I am college educated. You got to know who you are
Right.
in order to combat other
Right.
people's lies. You got to be like, I was raised in the hood, but let me let you know something.
Right.
You have to know who you are. Is to know yourself first, is to introduce yourself to the world.
Yeah,
Nice. Introduce yourself to yourself first, and then introduce yourself to the world. I love
beautiful.
that. I love it. And as you're saying this, anytime that I think of us in layers, I go back to the chakras. Joya, you're familiar with the chakras?
I am familiar.
Okay, so like when you're saying is like it's in layers, and you had mentioned like spiritual beliefs, then you mentioned like how you identify yourself in the world, you know who you are in the world, you're you know, like, so it's like as you're naming these things, I'm like looking at the chakras. I'm like, oh, like, because it's the crown, the third eye, the throat, like who are you as communication, who are you from your heart energy, who are you from your solar plexus, you know what I'm saying, like it goes all the way into like your energetic bodies, because those are the same frequencies that we radiate. So just like those seven chakras within your body, those seven chakras extend outside of you also to the same color layers in your auric field. And then this is how you draw in those energies into your space. So it's like it is important of knowing who you are. You know, who am I as this, who am I as that. And I feel like a good exercise would be pull out your chakra chart, find out what each chakra does, what each energy does in your body, and then identify yourself in maybe 7 words. 7 words. Who am I?
I
And
like
that's how
that.
you see who you're not too.
Yeah. And who you're not. And what you want in your life, what you expect from other people, all those things.
Hmm.
I love that. Ah, I'm so excited. I'm glad that we did today's show. Um
Yeah.
so yes, thank you guys so much. We are at our last few minutes of the show. I'm so grateful. Joya, Stephanie, it's been an honor to be sitting here with you beautiful ladies here today and discussing trauma responses and toxic relationships. This was a heavy discussion today, but I am so glad that we came in here like prepared and like able to give advice and able to identify some things that we hadn't identified yet. And I feel like you know, this is why we got the rowdy roster. Yeah, we, you know, like we got the rowdy roster for a lot of reasons, and one of those is to help to empower ourselves and empower our listeners, and to inspire you guys to find your own healing journey. And again, it's not about the destination, it's all about the journey. Don't put that placement so far above you that you feel like you can't find it. Our journey it's all about the journey. So every little success that you have toward where you want to be at, celebrate that, celebrate those successes. You know, be proud of yourself, love on yourself. You know, be gentle on yourself, give yourself some grace, give yourself some, you know, some props too, because I don't feel like I've started, you know, back in the day when I was a little kid, they'd be like, oh, pat yourself on the back. I started doing that shit now as a grown-ass woman, because I don't feel like I get enough back pats. And I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna pat my own motherfucking good shit, Nina. Good girl, you did that shit, girl, you did that. You know what I'm saying? Like, do it. Like, and if it looks fucking weird, who cares? Because it's not for other people. It's for you. It's for me. I do those things for me, and you know it might seem weird to others, but I gotta love on me. I gotta give myself props, and you know, because I am doing it, and every day I wake up and I choose to do it. I make that decision to do it. So you know, give yourself props, give yourself that grace, give yourself that love, celebrate you. And thank you guys so much for your energy, for your time, for all of the things that you guys brought here on today's show. And I really hope that we'll get a chance to do this again. And Joya, is there any way like is like, so do you mainly help your local community, or do you extend those resources outside? Is there ways that people can connect with you, follow you, just be around you in some way? Like, you know what I'm saying? Plug yourself, girl. Where can we find you at?
Right now, yeah, I am just local to Oklahoma. However, I am working on that, Nina. You see. I will be trying to branch out and help more people because I do believe we have to represent who we are to the world in which we relate to.
Ache.
And I want to see more people like me helping more people like me. So that's all
Yes.
I'm going to say. So I'm working on
That's funny.
getting my license and to become a therapist, and then I'll put myself out there because
Please.
we need more people, and I just want to be one of them.
Please do, because I know everybody's gonna be like, where can we follow her? Where can we, you know? So if you do an Instagram, if there's something that you do, get out here on social media, girl. Get on TikTok,
Thank
something.
you.
Like, give us something to follow you at.
I
Like,
will. Right now, I'm just local, but I'm working on it because I
okay.
recognize we need more healing in the world, and I just want to be part of that.
We do, and you know, like virtual is kind of like, you know, for some people is it kind of it helps to like kind of extend past the local. Like I love local stuff. Like that's the thing is
Mhm.
like I love that I'm able to help people like in person and you know they get to come here and you know we you know I love that also. But I feel like there's so many people that could benefit from just knowing who you are and just from hearing what it is that you have to say that goes past just Oklahoma, you know? So if you could give you know everybody the opportunity to like just learn from you and you know get advice from you, I feel like that would be great. Like we would love to have you like doing TikTok or Instagram or
Uh,
something somewhere we could find you at. And
Thank you.
yeah, or even here on the roster. Just let us know if you want to be on the roster more often. We would love to have you, girl. And Steph, thank you so much for introducing. I feel like you just I feel like my god sister collects these amazing people in her life, and I'm just like you know that just goes to show like it goes to tell about her because again we talk about those frequencies and what we radiate. You know, greatness attracts greatness. So thank you, sis, for being great, and I love you. So
I
thank you
love
for
y'all too.
bringing
I'm honored to be in y'all's presence. So thank you.
Shit. Thank you, sis. All
Yeah.
right. So that is it, you guys. Thank you so much for being part of the Rowdy roster. This is season 1, episode 5. And again, this today's topic and discussion was trauma responses and toxic relationships. Please make sure that you guys hit that follow. Make sure you guys hit that thumb or that heart, whatever option they give you. Make sure you guys hit that. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you so much for your continued love and support. We will see you at the next week's show, and I'll be announcing that topic sometime during the week. So you guys can follow us on Facebook at the Rowdy Roster Podcast with Nina Soul is what it's called, or you can also follow us here on YouTube, and then you guys could just catch us live on Wednesdays at 11:30 Central Standard Time, and that is AM. That is it, you guys. Until next time, divine blessings to today, tomorrow, and always. Ache. Bye, you guys. Bye.